The morning sun beat down mercilessly on the dusty training ground as Sarah Martinez adjusted her rifle scope for the third time. Sweat dripped from her forehead, mixing with the grime that had accumulated during weeks of intensive military training. Around her, fellow recruits moved with varying degrees of confidence, some joking nervously while others maintained stoic silence. Sarah had always been different from the other soldiers in her unit. While most of her male counterparts stood tall with broad shoulders and commanding voices, she was petite, barely meeting the minimum height requirements. Her quiet demeanor often led others to underestimate her abilities, something that had become increasingly frustrating during her months of service. Commander Roberts, a gruff veteran with 25 years of military experience, strutted across the training field like a peacock displaying its feathers. His weathered face bore the scars of multiple deployments, and his voice carried the authority of someone who had seen real combat. He had a reputation for being particularly hard on female recruits, believing that warfare was no place for women. "Listen up, soldiers," Roberts barked, his voice cutting through the morning air. "Today we're conducting live-fire exercises. This isn't some video game where you get multiple lives. In real combat, you get one shot to save your life and the lives of your teammates." Sarah checked her equipment one final time, ensuring her rifle was properly cleaned and loaded. She had spent countless hours practicing at the shooting range, often staying long after others had finished for the day. Her dedication to improving her marksmanship skills was unwavering, driven by a deep desire to prove herself worthy of wearing the uniform. The training scenario was designed to simulate a real combat situation. Recruits would advance through a series of obstacles while engaging multiple targets at various distances. The course included simulated enemy positions, civilian areas that required careful target identification, and time constraints that added pressure to every decision. As the first group of soldiers began their run through the course, Sarah watched intently, studying their techniques and noting both their successes and failures. She observed how some rushed their shots, missing easy targets due to adrenaline and poor breathing control. Others took too much time aiming, failing to engage multiple threats quickly enough. Commander Roberts walked behind the firing line, observing each recruit's performance with a critical eye. His comments were sharp and often cutting, designed to push soldiers to their limits and identify those who might crack under pressure. When he reached Sarah's position, his expression shifted to one of obvious skepticism. "Martinez," he said, loud enough for other recruits to hear, "I hope you've been practicing with that rifle. This isn't target practice at the county fair. Real enemies don't stand still with bullseyes painted on their chests." Sarah remained silent, keeping her eyes focused on the course ahead. She had learned early in her military career that responding to such comments usually only made situations worse. Instead, she channeled her frustration into determination, using doubt as fuel for her performance. The commander continued his verbal assault, seemingly enjoying the attention he was drawing from other recruits. "I've seen your file, Martinez. You barely passed your initial marksmanship qualification. What makes you think you can handle a complex scenario like this?" Other soldiers began to take notice of the exchange, some smirking while others looked uncomfortable with their commander's obvious bias. Sarah felt the weight of their stares but refused to let intimidation affect her focus. She had faced discrimination before and had always responded by working harder than anyone else. "You know what your problem is, Martinez?" Roberts continued, moving closer so his voice would carry to more recruits. "You think being stubborn makes you tough, but stubbornness without skill just gets people killed." The words stung, but Sarah maintained her composure. She thought about her younger brother, who had been killed in action 2 years earlier. His death had motivated her to enlist, hoping to honor his memory by serving her country with distinction. She wasn't going to let anyone's prejudice diminish that purpose. As her turn approached, Sarah began her pre-shooting routine. She controlled her breathing, cleared her mind of distractions, and visualized the course layout she had memorized. Her hands moved with practiced precision as she checked her weapon one final time, ensuring everything was in perfect working order. The other recruits had finished their runs with mixed results. Some had performed adequately, while others had struggled with the complex nature of the exercise. Commander Roberts had been particularly vocal about the mistakes he observed, using each error as a teaching moment for the group. "Martinez, you're up," Roberts announced, his tone suggesting he expected little from her performance. "Try not to embarrass yourself too badly." Remember, this isn't just about hitting targets. It's about making quick decisions under pressure, something that requires both skill and mental toughness. Sarah approached the starting line, feeling the eyes of every person on the training ground focused on her. The weight of expectation and skepticism created an almost tangible pressure in the air. She knew that this moment would either validate months of preparation or confirm the doubts that many held about her abilities. The course stretched out before her like a maze of challenges. Multiple target areas were positioned at various distances and angles, some partially concealed behind obstacles. Success would require not just accurate shooting, but also tactical thinking and rapid target acquisition skills. As Sarah raised her rifle and prepared to begin, Commander Roberts made one final comment that would prove to be remarkably prophetic. "Let's see if you can actually hit anything when it matters, Martinez. I'm betting you'll fold under pressure like a house of cards." The electronic timer beeped, signaling the start of her run. Sarah moved forward with fluid motion, her rifle ready and her mind focused entirely on the task ahead. Everything she had trained for, every hour spent practicing, every moment of doubt and determination had led to this single opportunity to prove herself. Behind her, Commander Roberts watched with arms crossed, expecting to witness another mediocre performance that would reinforce his preconceived notions about female soldiers in combat roles. He had no idea that he was about to witness something extraordinary. The electronic beep echoed across the training ground as Sarah Martinez stepped forward into the combat course. Her first movements were deliberate and controlled, a stark contrast to the rushed approach many previous recruits had taken. She moved with the fluid grace of someone who had spent countless hours studying tactical movement patterns. The first target appeared at 50 meters, a standard silhouette positioned behind partial cover. Sarah dropped to one knee, bringing her rifle to her shoulder in one smooth motion. Her breathing slowed automatically, muscle memory taking over as she aligned her sights. The shot cracked through the morning air, and the target dropped immediately. Commander Roberts raised an eyebrow but said nothing. One successful shot proved nothing in his mind. The course was designed to become increasingly difficult, with multiple targets appearing simultaneously and time pressure mounting with each stage. Sarah advanced to the next position, her movements economical and purposeful. She had studied this course layout for weeks, memorizing every angle and potential target location. While other recruits had relied primarily on natural ability, she had approached her preparation like a science, analyzing every variable that could affect her performance. 2 targets popped up simultaneously at different distances and angles. The closer target was positioned to the left at 30 meters, while the second target appeared to the right at approximately 70 meters. This was where many recruits had faltered, struggling to prioritize threats and manage their time effectively. Sarah's training kicked in immediately. She engaged the closer target first, following tactical doctrine that closer threats typically posed greater immediate danger. Her shot found its mark and she transitioned smoothly to the more distant target without hesitation. The second shot rang out less than 3 seconds after the first, and the distant target fell. Murmurs began to ripple through the watching recruits. Sarah's performance was notably different from what they had witnessed earlier. Her movements were precise, her shots deliberate, and her timing exceptional. Even some of the more experienced soldiers were beginning to take notice. The course continued to escalate in complexity. Sarah navigated through a series of barriers that simulated urban combat environments. Targets began appearing at irregular intervals, some marked as civilians that required split-second identification and restraint. This was where mental discipline became as important as marksmanship skills. A target appeared that was positioned next to a civilian silhouette. Sarah's training had emphasized the critical importance of target identification in combat situations. She held her fire for a fraction of a second longer than necessary, ensuring absolute certainty before taking her shot. When she fired, the bullet struck the hostile target with precision, while leaving the civilian completely unharmed. Commander Roberts found himself leaning forward slightly, his initial skepticism beginning to waver. He had seen hundreds of recruits go through this course, and Sarah's performance was becoming increasingly impressive. Her decision-making under pressure was exceptional, and her shooting accuracy was surpassing that of many seasoned soldiers. The next challenge involved multiple targets at extreme range. 3 silhouettes popped up simultaneously at distances exceeding 100 meters. Wind conditions made the shots particularly challenging, requiring advanced understanding of ballistics and environmental factors. Most recruits struggled significantly with long-range precision shooting. Sarah assessed the wind direction by observing the movement of grass and dust on the range. She made quick mental calculations about bullet drop and wind drift, adjustments she had practiced thousands of times during her personal training sessions. Her first shot struck the leftmost target center mass. The second shot followed immediately, finding its mark on the middle target. The third target required the most difficult shot of the sequence, positioned at an angle that demanded precise holdover calculations. Sarah took a deep breath, steadied her rifle against a barrier, and fired. The bullet traveled more than 120 meters before striking the target directly in the scoring zone. Silence fell over the training ground. Even the most vocal recruits had stopped their casual conversations to watch Sarah's performance. Her shooting was displaying a level of precision that many of them had never witnessed during training exercises. Commander Roberts checked his stopwatch and frowned. Not only was Sarah hitting every target with exceptional accuracy, but she was also completing each stage faster than the established time standards. Her movement between positions was efficient, her target acquisition was rapid, and her shooting was flawless. The course design included surprise elements intended to test adaptability and stress management. Targets began appearing from unexpected angles and at irregular timing patterns. Some popped up for only brief moments before disappearing, requiring instantaneous reaction and precise shooting. Sarah adapted to each new challenge without visible stress or hesitation. When targets appeared from her blind spots, she pivoted smoothly and engaged them effectively. When multiple threats presented themselves simultaneously, she prioritized them based on tactical principles and engaged each one in the appropriate sequence. Her rifle never wavered, her breathing remained controlled, and her focus never broke despite the increasing complexity of the scenarios. Each shot was placed with surgical precision, striking targets in scoring zones that many experienced marksmen would struggle to achieve under ideal conditions. The watching crowd of recruits had grown completely silent, recognizing that they were witnessing something extraordinary. Even sergeants and other training personnel had gathered to observe Sarah's run through the course. Word was spreading quickly through the base about the exceptional performance taking place on the range. Commander Roberts found himself in an uncomfortable position. His public criticism of Sarah's abilities was becoming increasingly difficult to justify, as she continued to excel at every challenge the course presented. His preconceived notions about her capabilities were being systematically destroyed by her flawless performance. As Sarah approached the final stages of the course, the challenges reached their maximum difficulty level. Multiple target arrays appeared simultaneously, requiring rapid transition between different shooting positions and engagement angles. Time pressure mounted as the scenario demanded both speed and precision in equal measure. Sarah's movements had developed an almost mechanical precision. Years of practice and preparation had created muscle memory that functioned automatically under stress. Her rifle swung smoothly between targets, each shot finding its mark with deadly accuracy. The sound of her precise shooting created a rhythm that captivated everyone watching. The final challenge was designed to be the ultimate test of marksmanship skills under pressure. 12 targets would appear simultaneously at various distances and angles, remaining visible for only seconds before disappearing. Successfully engaging all targets within the time limit required exceptional shooting ability and tactical awareness. The final stage alarm sounded, and 12 targets suddenly materialized across the training ground like phantoms emerging from the morning haze. They appeared at distances ranging from 25 to 150 meters, positioned at various elevations and angles that would challenge even the most skilled marksman. Sarah had exactly 90 seconds to engage all targets before they would disappear, marking the end of the exercise. Time seemed to slow as Sarah's training took complete control. Her mind instantly cataloged each target's position, calculating the optimal engagement sequence based on distance, angle, and tactical priority. She had rehearsed similar scenarios countless times in her imagination, but nothing could fully prepare someone for the real pressure of performing under the watchful eyes of superiors and peers. Her first shot rang out within 3 seconds of the target's appearing. The nearest target, positioned at 25 meters behind a concrete barrier, dropped immediately. Sarah's rifle was already moving toward the second target before the first bullet had even reached its mark. Her fluid motion demonstrated the countless hours she had spent practicing rapid target transitions. Commander Roberts stood frozen, watching with growing amazement as Sarah systematically engaged target after target with mechanical precision. Each shot was deliberate yet swift, finding its mark with accuracy that exceeded anything he had witnessed during his years of training recruits. His earlier mockery now seemed not just inappropriate, but embarrassingly ignorant. The second and third targets fell in rapid succession, both positioned at medium range but requiring different shooting stances to achieve proper sight alignment. Sarah dropped to prone position for one shot, then immediately transitioned to standing for the next, adapting her body position to optimize accuracy for each unique angle and distance. Watching soldiers began counting each successful hit, their whispered numbers creating an undercurrent of excitement and disbelief. 4 targets down, then 5, then 6. Sarah's shooting rhythm never faltered, each shot flowing naturally into the setup for the next engagement. Her breathing remained controlled despite the physical demands of rapid position changes and precise shooting. The 7th target required the most challenging shot yet attempted. Positioned at maximum range and partially obscured by vegetation, it demanded precise holdover calculations and perfect trigger control. Sarah settled into a supported shooting position, made quick mental adjustments for wind and distance, and fired. The target dropped after what seemed like an eternity as the bullet traveled its long arc. 8 targets eliminated, 4 remaining. The crowd of observers had grown larger as word spread throughout the base about the extraordinary performance taking place. Senior officers who rarely visited training exercises had appeared, drawn by reports of a recruit achieving unprecedented accuracy under pressure. Sarah's 9th shot engaged a target positioned at an extreme left angle, requiring her to pivot nearly 90 degrees from her previous position. The movement and shot execution happened so smoothly that it appeared almost choreographed. Her muscle memory had developed to the point where conscious thought was no longer necessary for basic shooting mechanics. The 10th target presented a unique challenge. Positioned on elevated ground that simulated shooting uphill in mountainous terrain, bullet trajectory changes significantly when shooting at steep angles, a concept that many experienced soldiers never fully master. Sarah compensated instinctively, her shot striking the target dead center despite the difficult angle. 2 targets remained with less than 20 seconds on the clock. The time pressure was now extreme, demanding rapid engagement without sacrificing accuracy. Sarah located both remaining targets quickly, prioritizing the more distant shot first to allow maximum time for bullet travel. Her 11th shot cracked across the range, striking a target positioned at 120 meters. Without pausing to confirm the hit, Sarah immediately transitioned to the final target, positioned at moderate range but partially concealed behind multiple obstacles that created a narrow shooting window. 10 seconds remained when Sarah fired her 12th and final shot. The bullet seemed to travel in slow motion as everyone held their breath, watching to see if she could achieve the seemingly impossible feat of perfect accuracy on every target in the complex course. The final target fell with 5 seconds remaining on the clock. Complete. Silence enveloped the training ground. 12 targets, 12 hits, flawless execution under maximum pressure. Sarah slowly lowered her rifle and engaged the safety, her face showing no emotion despite having just accomplished something extraordinary. She had completed the course with perfect accuracy in record time. Commander Roberts stood motionless, his earlier confident predictions about Sarah's failure now seeming absurdly misguided. Around him, other training personnel were checking and rechecking target results, unable to believe what they had witnessed. Perfect scores on such complex courses were virtually unheard of, even among special operations personnel. The watching recruits began to murmur among themselves, processing what they had just observed. Many had initially agreed with their commander's assessment of Sarah's likely performance, influenced by her quiet demeanor and diminutive stature. Now they were forced to confront their own biases and assumptions. Sarah walked calmly back toward the firing line, her rifle properly secured and her equipment organized with military precision. She showed no signs of excitement or celebration, treating her exceptional performance as simply the expected result of proper preparation and training. Her professional composure added another layer of impressiveness to her achievement. Senior Sergeant Williams, the range safety officer, approached the target array to conduct official verification of the results. His inspection was thorough and methodical, examining each target impact to ensure accurate scoring. The crowd waited anxiously for his official confirmation of what they had witnessed. 12 targets, 12 hits, Williams announced loudly enough for all observers to hear. All impacts in scoring zones with 9 of 12 striking center mass. Course completed in record time with perfect accuracy. The confirmation triggered excited conversations throughout the gathered crowd. Recruits who had struggled with much simpler versions of the course looked at Sarah with newfound respect. Even experienced soldiers were shaking their heads in amazement at the level of skill they had just witnessed. Commander Roberts found himself in an extremely uncomfortable position. His public criticism of Sarah's abilities had been proven completely wrong in the most dramatic fashion possible. Every disparaging comment he had made now reflected poorly on his judgment and leadership. The embarrassment was compounded by the presence of senior officers who had witnessed both his mockery and Sarah's exceptional response. Sarah returned to her position among the other recruits, accepting quiet congratulations from her peers while maintaining her characteristic modesty. She seemed genuinely surprised by the attention her performance was generating, having approached the exercise simply as another training opportunity, rather than a chance to prove anything to anyone. The range suddenly fell silent again, as Colonel Henderson, the base commander, approached the group. His unexpected presence indicated that word of Sarah's performance had reached the highest levels of command. Everyone snapped to attention as the colonel surveyed the scene, his experienced eyes taking in every detail of the situation. Colonel Henderson was known for his fair but demanding leadership style. He had extensive combat experience and was highly respected by both enlisted personnel and officers throughout the installation. His opinion carried significant weight in all matters related to training and personnel evaluation. Colonel Henderson's boots clicked rhythmically against the concrete as he walked slowly along the firing line, his weathered hands clasped behind his back. His presence commanded immediate attention from every person on the training ground. The colonel had served 3 combat deployments and was known throughout the base for his ability to recognize exceptional talent when he saw it. At ease, soldiers, Colonel Henderson said in his calm, authoritative voice. His eyes moved methodically across the group before settling on Sarah Martinez. I understand we've had quite an impressive demonstration of marksmanship today. Commander Roberts stepped forward, his face flushed with embarrassment and uncertainty about how to address the situation he had created. Sir, Private Martinez completed the advanced course with perfect accuracy. The results have been verified by Range Safety Officer Williams. The colonel nodded slowly, studying the target array in the distance. 12 targets, 12 hits, I'm told. That's remarkable performance under any circumstances, but particularly impressive considering the complexity of today's exercise. He paused, letting his words sink in before continuing. I also understand there were some predictions about expected performance that proved to be somewhat inaccurate. The subtle rebuke in Colonel Henderson's tone was unmistakable. Several recruits exchanged glances, recognizing that Commander Roberts was being called out for his earlier comments without being directly confronted. The colonel's diplomatic approach to addressing the situation demonstrated the kind of leadership that had earned him respect throughout his career. Sarah remained at attention, unsure how to respond to the unexpected attention from the base commander. She had never been in a situation where her performance had drawn notice from senior leadership. Her training had always been focused on personal improvement rather than recognition or advancement. Private Martinez, Colonel Henderson said, turning his full attention to Sarah. Your service record indicates this level of performance isn't entirely surprising. You've consistently exceeded standards in marksmanship training, though perhaps not everyone has been paying attention to those results. The colonel's comment served as another indirect criticism of Commander Roberts, whose evaluation of Sarah's abilities had been based on prejudice rather than actual performance data. Several other officers present were taking mental notes about the importance of objective assessment over personal bias in leadership decisions. Tell me, Private, what's your background with firearms? Colonel Henderson asked. Did you have shooting experience before enlisting? Sarah's response was clear and respectful. Yes, sir. My father taught me to shoot when I was 12 years old. We hunted together regularly, and I competed in junior marksmanship competitions throughout high school. I continued practicing during college and maintained my skills before enlisting. This information was news to Commander Roberts, who had never bothered to review Sarah's complete file or background information. His assumptions about her capabilities had been based entirely on physical appearance and gender, rather than actual qualifications or experience. The oversight was becoming increasingly embarrassing as more details emerged. Colonel Henderson nodded approvingly. Competitive shooting experience explains the exceptional fundamentals I observed during your course run. Smooth target transitions, consistent shooting positions, and excellent trigger control don't develop overnight. How many hours per week do you typically spend practicing? I typically spend 15 to 20 hours per week on marksmanship training, sir, Sarah replied. I use both live fire and dry fire practice to maintain and improve my skills. I also study ballistics and tactical shooting techniques during my personal time. The extent of Sarah's dedication surprised even her fellow recruits, most of whom had no idea about the level of effort she invested in her training. Her quiet nature had concealed the intense preparation that had led to her exceptional performance. The revelation helped explain how someone of her size and demeanor could achieve such remarkable results. Commander Roberts was beginning to understand the magnitude of his error in judgment. Not only had he publicly criticized a highly skilled soldier, but he had done so based on superficial observations rather than factual assessment. The situation was becoming more embarrassing, with each detail that emerged about Sarah's background and dedication. Colonel Henderson walked closer to examine the targets that Sarah had engaged during her course run. Each impact was precisely placed within the scoring zones, with most shots grouped tightly around center mass. The shooting demonstrated not just accuracy, but consistency that indicated exceptional skill development. Private Martinez, I want you to know that your performance today represents the highest standard of marksmanship I've observed in recent memory, the colonel announced loudly enough for all present to hear. Your dedication to training and your professional execution under pressure reflect credit upon yourself and this unit. The public recognition from the base commander carried significant weight throughout the military hierarchy. Such commendations from senior leadership often led to expanded opportunities and accelerated advancement for deserving personnel. Sarah's exceptional performance was being officially acknowledged at the highest levels. Several recruits who had initially doubted Sarah's abilities were now viewing her with obvious respect and admiration. Her quiet confidence and professional demeanor had earned their recognition in a way that words never could have achieved. Actions had spoken far louder than any argument or explanation. Colonel Henderson turned his attention back to Commander Roberts, his expression becoming more serious. Commander, I'd like to speak with you privately about training assessment procedures and the importance of objective evaluation. We'll discuss this in my office after the exercise concludes. The request for a private meeting was clearly not optional, and everyone present understood that Commander Roberts would be receiving counseling about his handling of the situation. His public criticism of Sarah's abilities, followed immediately by her exceptional performance, had created a leadership failure that required correction. Private Martinez, Colonel Henderson continued, I'm recommending you for advanced marksmanship instructor training. Your skills and dedication make you an ideal candidate to help train other soldiers in precision shooting techniques. Are you interested in pursuing additional responsibilities in this area? The offer represented a significant opportunity for career advancement and professional recognition. Marksmanship instructor positions were highly sought after and typically reserved for the most skilled personnel. Sarah's exceptional demonstration had earned her consideration for such advanced training. Yes, sir. I would be honored to pursue instructor certification, Sarah replied without hesitation. The opportunity to share her knowledge and help improve other soldiers' capabilities aligned perfectly with her commitment to service and excellence. The colonel smiled for the first time during the exchange. Outstanding. I'll have my staff coordinate with Training Command to get you enrolled in the next available instructor course. Your combination of technical skill and teaching potential could benefit many soldiers throughout your career. As Colonel Henderson prepared to leave, he made one final observation that resonated throughout the assembled group. Today's demonstration reminds us all about the importance of recognizing talent, regardless of where it comes from or what it looks like. Excellence exists in many forms, and effective leadership requires us to identify and nurture that excellence whenever we encounter it. The colonel's words served as a powerful lesson about leadership, prejudice, and the importance of objective evaluation. His handling of the situation had transformed a potentially negative incident into a teaching moment that would influence many careers and attitudes going forward. As the base commander walked away, the training ground remained unusually quiet. Everyone present was processing what they had witnessed and the lessons that had been demonstrated through both Sarah's performance and the colonel's response to the situation. The atmosphere on the training ground had completely transformed following Colonel Henderson's departure. What had begun as a routine marksmanship exercise had evolved into a defining moment that would be remembered and discussed for years to come. Sarah Martinez found herself at the center of conversations that extended far beyond her exceptional shooting performance. Word of the morning's events spread rapidly throughout the military installation. Social media posts, text messages, and informal conversations carried the story to personnel who hadn't witnessed the demonstration firsthand. By lunchtime, Sarah's perfect score and Commander Roberts' embarrassing predictions had become the subject of base-wide discussion. Commander Roberts retreated to his office immediately after the exercise concluded, knowing that his scheduled meeting with Colonel Henderson would be uncomfortable at best. His public criticism of Sarah's abilities, followed immediately by her flawless performance, had created a situation that would likely affect his career advancement and leadership reputation. Sarah, meanwhile, found herself surrounded by fellow recruits eager to learn more about her background and training methods. Her typically quiet lunch period became an impromptu question and answer session as soldiers sought to understand how she had achieved such exceptional results under pressure. "How did you stay so calm out there?" asked Private Johnson, who had struggled significantly with his own course run earlier that morning. "I could barely hit half my targets and you made it look effortless." Sarah considered the question carefully before responding. "I think preparation was the key factor. I spent months studying the course layout, practicing similar scenarios, and working on my shooting fundamentals until they became automatic responses rather than conscious decisions." Her explanation revealed the methodical approach she had taken to training, treating marksmanship as both art and science. While other recruits had relied primarily on natural ability and basic instruction, Sarah had invested considerable time and effort in understanding the technical aspects of precision shooting. Private Williams, who had scored reasonably well on his own run, was particularly interested in Sarah's mental preparation techniques. "Did you visualize the course beforehand? How did you manage the pressure when everyone was watching?" "Mental rehearsal was definitely important," Sarah explained. "I would run through the course in my mind dozens of times, imagining different target presentations and practicing my responses. When the actual exercise began, it felt familiar rather than intimidating." Her insights demonstrated sophisticated understanding of sports psychology principles that many professional athletes employed to optimize their performance under pressure. Sarah had intuitively applied these concepts to military training, giving her significant advantages over recruits who relied solely on physical practice. The conversation continued for nearly an hour, with Sarah patiently answering questions about equipment selection, breathing techniques, shooting positions, and target prioritization strategies. Her willingness to share knowledge and help others improve their skills was generating as much respect as her exceptional marksmanship abilities. Meanwhile, in the base commander's office, Colonel Henderson was conducting his promised discussion with Commander Roberts. The meeting was professional but direct, addressing both the immediate situation and broader leadership principles that had been violated during the morning's exercise. "Commander, I want to understand your assessment process for evaluating recruit capabilities," Colonel Henderson began. "Your predictions about Private Martinez's performance were not just inaccurate, but publicly stated in a manner that could have undermined her confidence and unit morale." Commander Roberts shifted uncomfortably in his chair, knowing there was no acceptable excuse for his behavior. "Sir, I made assumptions based on physical appearance rather than reviewing her complete service record and training history. My judgment was flawed, and I accept full responsibility for the error." The colonel appreciated the direct acknowledgement of responsibility, but pressed further into the underlying issues. This incident highlights the danger of unconscious bias in leadership decisions. When we allow preconceived notions about gender, size, or appearance to influence our evaluations, we risk overlooking exceptional talent and damaging unit effectiveness. The discussion continued for 45 minutes, covering topics ranging from objective performance assessment to the importance of supporting all personnel regardless of demographic characteristics. Commander Roberts left the meeting with clear expectations about future conduct and a requirement to attend additional leadership training focused on bias recognition and elimination. Back in the barracks, Sarah was discovering that her morning performance had generated interest from personnel far beyond her immediate training unit. Senior non-commissioned officers from other companies were stopping by to meet the recruit who had achieved perfect scores on the advanced marksmanship course. Sergeant First Class Rodriguez, a veteran instructor with 15 years of teaching experience, was particularly impressed by Sarah's technical knowledge and teaching ability. During their conversation, he began to understand why Colonel Henderson had recommended her for instructor certification. Martinez, I've been teaching marksmanship for over a decade, and I rarely encounter recruits who understand the science behind precision shooting as thoroughly as you do, Rodriguez observed. Your explanation of wind reading and trajectory calculation demonstrates knowledge that typically takes years to develop. Sarah's response reflected her characteristic humility. I've always been fascinated by the physics involved in long-range shooting. Understanding the technical aspects helps me make better decisions under pressure and troubleshoot problems when my accuracy isn't meeting standards. The conversation revealed that Sarah's exceptional performance wasn't simply the result of natural talent, but rather the product of dedicated study and scientific approach to skill development. Her combination of theoretical knowledge and practical application created capabilities that exceeded those of many experienced soldiers. As evening approached, the day's events were being analyzed and discussed throughout multiple levels of the military hierarchy. Sarah's performance had demonstrated the importance of recognizing talent, regardless of its source, while Commander Roberts' error had highlighted the dangers of leadership bias and prejudgment. Colonel Henderson was already making plans to ensure that Sarah's exceptional abilities would be properly utilized for the benefit of the entire unit. Her potential as a marksmanship instructor could multiply her impact far beyond her individual performance, helping to improve the skills of countless other soldiers throughout her career. The story of the morning's events was also reaching beyond the immediate military community. Local media outlets were beginning to take interest in the exceptional performance by a female recruit, recognizing the human interest appeal of someone overcoming prejudice through outstanding achievement. Sarah remained largely unaware of the broader attention her performance was generating. Her focus remained on continuous improvement and preparation for upcoming training challenges. The recognition she had received was gratifying, but her primary motivation continued to be personal excellence and service to her country. As the day concluded, it was becoming clear that the morning's marksmanship exercise had created ripple effects that would influence many careers and attitudes going forward. Sarah Martinez had not only proven her exceptional abilities but had also provided a powerful example of how dedication and preparation could overcome bias and preconceptions. The transformation from doubt to respect had occurred in less than 5 minutes of shooting, but the lessons learned would resonate for years to come. 3 months after the remarkable marksmanship demonstration, Sarah Martinez stood before a classroom filled with eager students at the Military Advanced Marksmanship School. Her instructor certification had been fast-tracked following Colonel Henderson's recommendation, and she was now teaching precision shooting techniques to soldiers from multiple units across the installation. The irony was not lost on anyone familiar with the story. The recruit whom Commander Roberts had publicly mocked for her supposed lack of shooting ability was now certified to teach marksmanship at the highest levels. Her students included seasoned veterans, special operations candidates, and even some officers who recognized the value of learning from exceptional talent, regardless of rank. Sarah's teaching methods combined technical precision with practical application, drawing from her extensive study of ballistics, psychology, and tactical shooting principles. Her classes consistently produced the highest student improvement scores in the program's history, validating Colonel Henderson's decision to fast-track her instructor's certification. The key to consistent accuracy under pressure, Sarah explained to her current class, is developing muscle memory so complete that conscious thought becomes unnecessary. When your fundamentals are automatic, your mind remains free to focus on tactical decisions and target prioritization. Her students were a diverse group, representing various military occupational specialties and experience levels. Among them was Private Stevens, who had struggled significantly with marksmanship throughout his basic training. Under Sarah's instruction, his accuracy had improved dramatically, transforming him from a marginal shooter into a competent marksman. The success stories emerging from Sarah's classes were generating attention throughout the training command. Her ability to identify and correct individual shooting problems was helping soldiers who had previously been considered hopeless cases. The practical impact of her teaching was measurable in improved qualification, scores, and increased confidence among students. Commander Roberts had undergone significant changes following his embarrassing encounter with Sarah's exceptional performance. The mandatory leadership training he received had opened his eyes to unconscious biases that had influenced his decisions throughout his career. He now approached personnel evaluation with greater objectivity and humility. During a chance encounter in the base dining facility, Commander Roberts approached Sarah's table where she was reviewing lesson plans for her next class. The conversation that followed would have been unimaginable just months earlier. When he had publicly questioned her abilities, Martinez, "I owe you an apology," Roberts said quietly, his voice carrying genuine remorse. "My comments during that training exercise were unprofessional and based on prejudice rather than fact. Your performance that day taught me important lessons about leadership and judgment." Sarah looked up from her materials, surprised by the commander's approach and the sincerity in his voice. She had harbored no anger toward him, understanding that his attitudes reflected broader societal biases rather than personal malice. Her response demonstrated the same grace she had shown throughout the entire experience. "Thank you for saying that, sir. I believe we all have opportunities to learn and grow from challenging situations. Your recognition of the issue shows real leadership character." The brief exchange represented healing and growth for both individuals. Commander Roberts had confronted his biases and taken steps to address them, while Sarah had responded with forgiveness and understanding that elevated everyone involved. Their interaction became a model for how organizations could address and overcome prejudice. News of Sarah's success as an instructor eventually reached beyond military circles. A local television station requested an interview about her journey from mocked recruit to certified instructor, recognizing the inspirational value of her story for civilian audiences facing their own challenges with discrimination and doubt. During the interview, Sarah remained characteristically modest about her achievements while emphasizing the importance of preparation, dedication, and perseverance. "Success isn't really about proving other people wrong," she explained. "It's about staying focused on your goals and putting in the work necessary to achieve them." The television feature generated hundreds of messages from viewers who had been inspired by Sarah's story. Young women considering military careers, athletes facing discrimination, and individuals dealing with doubt about their abilities all found motivation in her example of overcoming prejudice through excellence. Colonel Henderson watched the interview from his office, feeling satisfaction about the decision to support Sarah's rapid advancement. Her success was benefiting not just individual students, but the entire military community through improved training methods and changed attitudes about recognizing talent in all its forms. The marksmanship school where Sarah taught had become a model program that other installations wanted to replicate. Her innovative teaching techniques and exceptional results were being studied and implemented throughout the military training system. The impact of that 5-minute demonstration was continuing to expand in ways no one could have predicted. Sarah's brother's memory remained a driving force in her continued service and excellence. She often thought about how proud he would have been to see her achievements and the positive influence she was having on other soldiers' careers. His sacrifice had inspired her initial enlistment, but her own dedication had created something much larger. As she prepared for another day of instruction, Sarah reflected on the unexpected journey that had brought her to this point. What began as a routine training exercise had transformed into a career-defining moment that opened doors she never could have imagined. The 5 minutes during which she eliminated 12 targets had changed not just her own life, but the lives of everyone who witnessed the demonstration. The lesson she taught most frequently to her students extended far beyond marksmanship techniques. "Never let other people's limitations become your own limitations," she would tell them. "Prepare thoroughly, perform to the best of your ability, and let your results speak for themselves." The story of the commander who mocked her aim only to watch 12 enemies fall in 5 minutes, had become legendary throughout the military community. But for Sarah Martinez, it was simply the beginning of a career dedicated to excellence, service, and helping others achieve their full potential, regardless of the obstacles they faced. Years later, many of her students would carry forward not just improved shooting skills, but also the understanding that exceptional performance combined with professional humility could overcome any prejudice or preconception. The demonstration that silenced doubt in 5 minutes had created lessons that would influence military training and leadership development for generations to come. Sarah's story proved that sometimes the most powerful response to criticism is not argument or explanation, but simply the quiet confidence to let exceptional performance speak for itself.